Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. I just want to start by introducing myself and our guests here today in the Parliamentary Press Gallery. My name is Daniel Blaikie. I'm the Member of Parliament for Elmwood-Transcona and the NDP's Finance Critic and Critic for Employment and Workforce Development. I'm here with my colleague, Laurel Collins, who's the Member of Parliament for Victoria, as well as Larry Russo from the Canadian Labour Congress, Angela McEwen from the Canadian Union of Public Employees. We'll be joined virtually by Katie Bauer, who is also with the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Daniel Cloutier is here from Unifor, and Jérémy Davernos is here from Mouvement Action Chômage. So we're here today to talk a little bit about what being a new parent is like in Canada today. And I think a lot of folks know that being a new parent is a full-time job. It's not easy. There's a lot of sleepless nights, and there's a lot of real work with real value for all Canadians, not just the particular family with a baby in the house, but for the community and ultimately for the Canadian economy. But that's all work that goes unpaid in the Canadian economy. And one of the ways that beyond not recognizing and valuing and paying for that work, that Canada makes life harder for new families, is by forcing them to cannibalize their EI benefits in order to take maternity or parental leave. So when they take their parental or maternity benefits, it uses up the hours that they have to apply for regular benefits. And that means that if a new parent loses their job after their maternity leave or in the lead up to their maternity leave, or if they're laid off while they're on a maternity or parental leave, it means that they can't access income assistance, effectively their employment insurance benefit, in the case of the layoff. And that puts a lot of financial strain on new families in addition to all of the workload that comes with being new parents as well. It's something that at one time the Social Security Tribunal of Canada said was a case of clear gender discrimination under the Charter. And we're very disappointed in the government that allowed an appeal to proceed against that ruling instead of just fixing the problem, which is what they ought to have done. And so now we're in a situation where that ruling has been overturned, and that means parents can't depend on an administrative fix to this real problem, to their family budgets at a pivotal time in their family life. And that's why we're here to call on the government today to implement this fix. Now, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives has done the homework and told us that it would only cost $15 million a year, which in the grand scheme, it sounds like a lot of money. It would certainly be a lot of money for a couple of new parents to get $15 million. But in an employment insurance system that's measured in the tens of billions of dollars, this is not a lot of money. In fact, if you just compare it to the Arrive Can app, I've just about said Arrive Scam, because the shoe fits, but that cost government $60 million. And it didn't do anything for new parents. In fact, it didn't do much of anything for anyone except a few guys in a basement. So all we're calling for is for the government to spend a lot less money to do right by predominantly women across the country who are accessing maternity and parental benefits in order to take care of their new kids. It's a good investment. It's a small investment in the grand scheme of things, and it's going to make a big difference for Canadian families. Alors, nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour parler au sujet d'assurance-emploi parce que nous avons une situation où des nouveaux parents qui travaillent vraiment fort pour appuyer leur bébé, et nous avons un bébé avec nous aujourd'hui aussi, puis c'est beaucoup de travail, puis c'est du travail qui a des vrais bénéfices pour nos communautés et pour nos pays aussi, et c'est un travail que nous ne reconnaissons pas assez déjà, mais en plus que ça, nous pénalisons des nouveaux parents parce que nous leur obligeons d'utiliser leurs bénéfices d'assurance-emploi pour leur congé de maternité ou paternité. Alors, nous voulons une situation où les nouveaux parents ont accès à leur congé parental sans avoir besoin de leur laisser vulnérables à une perte d'emploi sans avoir accès à l'assurance-emploi. So, at the beginning, I talked about a number of fabulous guests that we have with us today. I want to hand the microphone over to Laurel Collins and Eowyn, who are here with us today to talk a little bit about the impact of this situation on new parents. Thank you.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here on the homelands of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. And I want to thank Daniel and also all of the labor leaders who have been tirelessly advocating for new parents. And we know that more and more men are taking parental leave, but still this issue disproportionately impacts women. And I have spoken to women in my community who have either lost their employment and then gotten pregnant, or who were on parental leave and then during that leave lost their employment. And it is unfair to put new parents in a situation where they are deprived of the benefits that Canadians deserve. This government made a commitment to fill the gaps in our EI system, and it is yet another broken promise. So I just, want to end again by thanking Daniel Blaikie for his leadership on this, for the labor leaders here today, for their leadership. And I think that we have a responsibility to young families and to all of the children who they care for to do better. Thank you.
All right, Angela, if you could come to the microphone.
Katie?
Oh, are we going to Katie next? Sorry, I need to do a better job of consulting my notes. Katie, we've got you on virtually there. Sorry about that. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Good morning. My name is Katie Bowes, and I'm a mother of 3 who lives in Smith Falls, Ontario. Thank you, Mr. Blaikie, for inviting me to share my story with you today. I worked full-time as a child protection support worker at Family and Children's Services of Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville for over 8 years. I took a maternity leave in June 2022 when my son was born. I was able to spend a full year at home with my new baby in the EI maternity benefit leave. I returned to work in June 2023, but just 4 months later in November, I was laid off. When I began my application for employment insurance, I was shocked to learn that I didn't qualify for the EI benefits. Only the hours worked after my maternity leave counted for my claim, even though I had worked full time at a job I had done for 8 years. Taking maternity leave meant I did not qualify for those EI benefits after my layoff. There were 5 of us who were laid off. I didn't qualify. My coworkers, the only difference was that I had taken maternity leave, and that was so unfair. It shocked me. As a mom of 3 small children that depended on me. Oh, am I back? Yeah, can you hear me now? So as a mom of small 3 children that depended on me, I was stressed. Worry now financially. I was afraid we might even have to remortgage our house. It was heartbreaking to lose a career that I loved. I live in a rural area and it's not easy to find similar work. Not getting EI made it so much worse. Without that money coming in, I had to find work quickly. I was forced to take a lower paying job. It was my right to take a maternity leave. Nobody should have to be afraid that they're going to lose their job and EI won't be there for them because they took the time with their baby. I had paid into EI at every job I had worked for 20 years. I had no say in being laid off when I was. And it's not right that I lost the safety net because I took a maternity leave. I'm speaking out because I believe this needs to be fixed. I don't want my daughters to have to go through this anything when they grow up. I don't want them to be afraid that if they lose their job, that they won't lose the EI benefits because they took a paternity leave. Thank you for listening.
Angela McEwen, and I'm the senior economist at QB. QP represents about 740,000 workers across the country and across a number of sectors, such as education, healthcare, emergency services, early learning and childcare, municipalities, social services, utilities, airlines, more. And I really want to thank MP Blaikie for inviting us here today to talk about this important issue. And I really want to thank Katie for taking the time out to share her story. You might not have heard it broke up right when she was saying that there were 5 people laid off, and she was the only one of those 5 people that couldn't access regular EI benefits, and that's because she had taken those parental benefits. And so that's the fundamental unfairness that we're talking about here today. And unfortunately, Katie's story isn't all that unique. This situation can happen across all sectors of the economy, anywhere where women work, and layoffs happen. We estimate that as many as 3,000 workers a year are laid off shortly before, during, or after they take maternity and parental leave. And like Katie, many of these workers have paid into the EI system for years. The ability of parents to access EI maternity and parental benefits is an essential part of Canada's social safety net. This income support helps mothers recover from child support or from childbirth and bond with their newborn, which is key to infant development. And these benefits also help ensure economic stability for families and reduce the risk of financial insecurity and poverty. Since women still take the majority of EI parental benefits, they are far more likely to be affected by this limitation in the employment insurance system. The most recent EI data for 2021-22 shows us that men took an average of about 11 weeks of parental leave, and women took an average of 46 weeks combined maternity and parental. And that means they don't have access to regular benefits. But EI regular benefits are important because they help people meet their basic needs while they're searching for new job opportunities, ensuring better labor market matches for those workers and for the economy as a whole. By denying women these EI regular benefits because they've received EI, maternity and parental benefits, these women are experiencing blatant discrimination and being forced into economically precarious situations. Fortunately, this is an easy problem to fix. We're asking that workers in this situation be allowed to use their qualifying hours for both regular and parental benefits up to a maximum benefit period of 104 weeks. We estimate that this would only cost $15 million a year for the EI system. For years now, this government has committed to building a stronger and more inclusive EI system. And while QP is still committed to working on pushing this government to implement broader reforms that would make EI work better for all workers, this change is an example of something meaningful that could be implemented as early as this budget. Thank you.
Donc, bonjour, mon nom est Jérémy Davernas, je suis du mouvement Action Chômage de Montréal. Très content d'être là, merci de l'invitation avec les collègues. Donc, le mouvement Action Chômage a initié un recours en justice en 2018 pour représenter 6 femmes qui sont dans la situation qui a été décrite là, par les gens qui sont passés avant moi. Donc, ça fait depuis 2018 qu'on représente ces 6 femmes-là dans un recours qui attaque certaines dispositions de la loi d'assurance-emploi. Notre argumentaire, c'est que dans le fond, ces dispositions-là sont discriminatoires. Donc, on vient demander au tribunal de venir les annuler car c'est de la discrimination basée sur le genre qui est protégée par la Charte canadienne des droits et libertés. 3 de ces femmes-là sont dans la situation où, dans le fond, elles ont pris le congé de maternité et ont perdu leur emploi durant le congé de maternité. Donc, quand elles sont sorties du congé de maternité, elles étaient sans emploi et n'avaient aucune protection de la part de l'assurance-emploi. Les 3 autres femmes qu'on représente sont dans une autre situation un peu proche, c'est-à-dire que c'est au sortir de leur congé de maternité, elles sont retournées au travail pour une très courte période, un peu comme ce que Mme Basse décrivait, et elles se sont ramassées sans emploi et là, n'avaient pas assez d'heures travaillées pour se qualifier pour l'assurance-emploi. Donc, ça fait bientôt 6 ans qu'on est dans ce recours-là. On a gagné la première étape. On a représenté les 6 femmes devant le tribunal de la sécurité sociale à la division générale et on a gagné. La juge Sauvé est venu dans son jugement confirmer qu'il y avait une discrimination basée sur le genre, un peu en lien avec ce que Angela disait, c'est-à-dire que ce sont les longs congés parentaux qui affectent l'accès à l'assurance-emploi. Et dans les statistiques qu'on a, c'est environ 85% des femmes qui vont prendre l'entièreté du congé parental partageable entre les deux parents. Donc, la loi a peut-être l'air neutre, ça a peut-être l'air d'une règle technique, mais socialement, dans les faits, ce sont les femmes qui s'absentent le plus longtemps dans le congé parental et qui se font dire, bien, vous n'avez pas accès alors qu'elles ont besoin d'une protection en perte de revenus. La Commission d'assurance-emploi a porté appel de cette décision-là en 2022. On a eu la décision de la division d'appel du tribunal de la sécurité sociale en janvier dernier. La division d'appel a accueilli la demande de la Commission d'assurance-emploi. Donc, retour à la case départ, est venu nous dire qu'il n'y avait pas de discrimination, qu'il y avait bien une distinction dans la loi entre hommes et femmes, mais que ce n'était pas discriminatoire. Nous avons déposé vendredi dernier une demande de contrôle judiciaire à la Cour d'appel fédérale. Donc, le combat continue. On a l'intention de représenter ces 6 femmes-là jusqu'au bout, jusqu'à la Cour suprême s'il le faut. Par contre, on aimerait que ça se règle autrement. C'est bien évident, ça a été dit par les gens qui m'ont précédé. C'est un problème qui est relativement simple à régler par une intervention législative. L'ancienne ministre de l'Emploi et du Développement social, Mme Qualtrough, qui était là en poste de 2019 jusqu'à très récemment, avait reconnu le problème et avait dit être avec nous et vouloir trouver des solutions. Depuis que M. Boissonneau est en poste, ce qu'on entend, c'est qu'il compte s'abstenir d'intervenir tant que le dossier est devant les tribunaux. Donc, nous, on dénonce cette affirmation-là. On trouve que c'est un peu absurde parce que les tribunaux ce qu'ils nous disent, du moins dans la dernière décision, c'est que c'est davantage un problème politique et que ça prendrait une intervention du politique. Donc là, on a le judiciaire et le politique qui se renvoient la balle. Ce serait très, très simple à régler et ça permettrait pour un gouvernement qui se dit féministe de mettre fin à une grossière discrimination dans un programme primordial de lutte à la pauvreté au Canada. Merci.
Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Larry Rousseau, Executive Vice President for the Canadian Labour Congress, vice-président exécutif pour le Congrès du travail du Canada. Nous représentons 3 millions de travailleurs et travailleuses à travers le pays, representing more than 3 million workers across the country. In the face of the cost of living crisis that is hitting working families over and over, it's important more now than ever to ensure workers have access to employment insurance. Too many do not. Workers, especially women, continue to see their wages fall behind while they are trying to make ends meet to support their families. It's shameful that in 2024, women still earn less than men in nearly all occupations, including in sectors with the highest proportion of women. C'est honteux qu'en 2024, les femmes gagnent encore moins que les hommes dans presque toutes les professions, y compris dans les secteurs comprenant la plus forte proportion de femmes. Women are more likely, and particularly women of color, are more likely than men to suffer from chronic poverty, work in minimum wage and part-time jobs, and take care of children. We've long advocated for comprehensive programs to help address the ongoing affordability crisis many workers and their families have contended with, including much-needed reforms to Canada's EI programs. Nous réclamons depuis longtemps des programmes exhaustifs permettant de s'attaquer à la crise de l'abordabilité que vivent de trop nombreux travailleurs et travailleuses et leurs familles, notamment en mettant en œuvre les très nécessaires mesures de réforme du régime de l'assurance-emploi. Currently, under EI rules, special benefits can sometimes be combined, extending the benefit period beyond 52 weeks. However, the combination of maternity, parental, and EI regular benefits, as we've heard, comes up against a hard limit of 50 weeks. That is not fair. Another hit for women who are more likely to use the parental benefits and will be penalized in the event of job loss while on maternity or parental benefits. In 2022, of the 59,000 unemployed workers who had not banked enough hours to qualify for regular EI benefits, despite having insurable earnings and a valid job separation, 3 out of 5 were women. The government can fix this legislatively and end this discrimination against women. Today, we're calling on the government to urgently address the gaps in the current EI system that penalize women by removing the 50-week restriction on combining maternity, parental, and regular benefits. Nous exhortons le gouvernement à résoudre de toute urgence les lacunes dans le régime actuel d'assurance-emploi qui pénalise les femmes en supprimant la restriction de 50 semaines sur la combinaison de prestations de maternité ou de prestations parentales avec les prestations régulières. Canada's unions have called on the government to change this discriminatory aspect of the EI rules. Now is the time. Prime Minister Randy Boissonnault, Minister responsible for EI, this is an easy fix. Do the right thing, and please do it now. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom est Daniel Cloutier, je suis directeur québécois du syndicat Unifor. Au nom de l'équipe de direction d'Unifor, je tiens à remercier le député Blaikie pour nous donner cette occasion-là aujourd'hui de parler sur ce sujet qui est extrêmement important. Unifor est le plus grand syndicat du secteur privé au Canada, représentant plus de 315 000 membres d'un océan à l'autre dans virtuellement tous les secteurs importants de notre économie. Unifor est dédié à fait la promotion d'une réforme de l'assurance-emploi depuis déjà plusieurs années. C'est un sujet qui concerne l'ensemble de la classe ouvrière. On a donc milité depuis de nombreux mois et années pour développer un programme qui va assurer une meilleure accès, qui va améliorer aussi les bénéfices et qui va se baser sur une meilleure administration. En juin 2021, on a produit une politique qui est appelée un programme d'assurance-emploi inclusif, équitable et résilient pour l'ensemble des travailleuses et des travailleurs du Canada, qui adresse spécifiquement, parmi d'autres enjeux, cet enjeu-là au niveau de le congé de maternité et parental. We said that the federal government must eliminate the 50-week limit on combined special benefit and unemployment benefit and extend the reference and benefit period to at least 104 weeks. This practice penalizes workers. By having taken maternity, parental, sickness, or care leaves, unemployed workers are less deserving of their full entitlement to EI, which they pay for. This rule almost exclusively affects women who take the vast majority of maternity, parental, and family care benefit. Despite the job protection provided under the appropriate employment standard law in various jurisdictions, women who lose their job before, during, or shortly after taking a maternity parental leave are just as unemployed as anyone else. The 50-week maximum on combined benefit should be eliminated, and the reference and benefit period should be extended to at least 104 weeks. This important change would allow workers to qualify for EI benefit based on the same hour of work used to qualify for special benefit. This recommendation supplements Unifor ongoing work to ensure pregnant women are fully protected at work, including with protective reassignment provision under the law, and access to worker compensation benefit when the workplace poses a danger to the worker or the fetus. Unifor was hopeful when the current Liberal government repetitively made announcements declaring that they would be easing access to maternity and parental leave. Yet today, this promise have come up empty. Unifor has addressed this issue at the bargaining table by negotiating additional income support measures in several sectors to mask the issue. Unifor stands in solidarity with the countless others who remain unprotected, with a plea to the government to finally follow through on their commitment. Yes, we can fix it into the collective agreement, but it's a long way home for an easy fix that the government should do and provide. Donc, la question qu'on pose aujourd'hui, ayant en tête les déclarations de la ministre Qualtrough, ayant en tête les promesses que le Parti libéral a faites, est-ce qu'au Canada, et est-ce que pour le gouvernement actuel, la discrimination basée sur le genre et sur le désir d'avoir des enfants est acceptable parce que ça coûte quelques millions de dollars de plus? C'est ça la question qu'on pour lequel on souhaite obtenir une réponse. Merci tout le monde.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for organizing this. I guess this is just broadly for anyone who wants to take this. Do you believe that businesses are still targeting parents, a pregnant women who get pregnant because it's too expensive to pay for EI? Do you believe that this is part of the problem?
Do you see numbers on that?
No, because what the business pays into EI doesn't change if the person takes parental leave. So it doesn't affect. There were actually consultations that the government did, and in those consultations and in the What We Heard report after the consultations, both businesses and workers were advocating for this change.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where's the discrimination? Or
So the discrimination, this is the case where the discrimination comes in because like layoffs happen all the time, right? But if you've taken the parental leave, which mostly women do, and you get laid off, then you don't have access to EI. So it's because the system doesn't recognize that when women get laid off, they need EI too, even if they've just taken parental leave. That's the discrimination. So it's actually the gap in the system for parents. That's the discrimination.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the solution that we're advocating for here? I mean, I think Angela, this might be for you, but can you lay it out a bit more simply for me, because I didn't really understand.
So at the moment, you know, whether you're accessing regular EI benefits or whether you're getting a maternity or parental leave under EI, the maximum period that you can be on EI is 50 weeks. And as Larry highlighted, there's a couple instances where you can go over that 50 weeks, but not in the case of maternity and parental benefits. So the fix is to extend the combined benefit period up to 104 weeks. And then that means that if you went on EI because you're a new mom and you lost your job in the meantime, you still have 50 weeks of benefit period after you're done your maternity leave. Or in the case where you got laid off 6 months before you had your baby, you didn't just use up 6 months of your maternity leave on your regular benefits, because those can be extended after your maternity leave, so you can get your full period of regular benefits and your full maternity or parental benefit. And then you wouldn't have gender-based discrimination, because it would mean that women aren't required to burn up all of the qualifying hours that they had in case they get laid off simply to take their maternity leave. Because it takes quite a bit of time to accumulate those qualifying hours again after you're back from your maternity leave, which creates a real period of vulnerability. And, you know, I mean, people who have switched jobs and know that it can take 6 months, for instance, to get into the new benefit plan, know how fragile a time that is when you don't have access to benefits that you need. And so essentially what the EI system is doing is creating that for new parents who, once they're off their maternity or parental leave, are vulnerable for a long time while they accumulate those extra hours. What we're saying is we want to support new moms and new parents in order to be able to take that leave, because it's good for their kid and it's good for our communities. And we don't think that they should have to suffer in the event that they have a layoff that coincides with becoming new parents. And, you know, like Katie shared that she had been working in that job, I think, for 8 years. She had more than collected enough hours for 2 periods of employment insurance. But because of the way the system works, it says, no, you have to choose one or the other. And that's why we support the decision that said that that was clearly gender-based discrimination within employment insurance. We don't think that this is something that needs to be litigated for years more. It's a problem. The government has the power to fix it. And as I say, it costs very little money compared to what the employment insurance system has in it, and compared to some other initiatives the government's been happy to fund, like the ArriveCan app. This is something that we could do for new families across the country in perpetuity at a very low cost.
Okay, and just quickly, so obviously you're looking for this to see this in the spring budget. Do you believe that the government just needs to allocate more money to it? Do they need to introduce new legislation? Can this be done through regulation? Like, how do you see this working?
I mean, the money's already in the EI account. And so this is really just a small legislative change in order for the program to be able to pay out on new terms. But the amount that it would be paying out is less than 0.01% of what was paid out by EI in 2019. which is pre-pandemic. So I thought that would be a good reference. It's an even lower percentage, but you know, we're looking at, I think in 2019 it was about a $21 billion expenditure by EI. We're talking about $15 million. So we're talking about less than 0.01% difference on the books for the EI system. You're not going to see it in premiums. Nobody is going to notice except the new parents that don't have to cannibalize their regular EI benefits in the event of a layoff to have spent time at home with their new baby. Those are the only people who are going to notice.
I have questions on other issues. Go. Okay. Let me just check my email here because I'm also asking my newsroom if they have questions. I mean, Daniel, you're basically calling ArriveScan using the same language as Pierre Poilievre. There's been a lot of movement on this issue. We've seen that GC Strategies had received a lot more money than previously thought. What are the next steps that you think we need to take to get to the bottom of what really the heck is going on here?
Clearly something went wrong when it comes to the ArriveCan app. And I think we've got a parliamentary committee that's been looking at this. I think that's part of how we're starting to get some of this new information is through the good work of journalists and the good work of parliamentarians who are looking at it. So I would defer to my colleague who's on the committee that's looking into that in terms of what the next steps are. But I think what we want to see from government is some transparency about what happened so that we can get to the bottom of it. And whatever happened there, that we can put policies in place to make sure that that kind of activity doesn't happen again. I think Canadians should expect value for money by investments that government makes on their behalf, and there should be good policies in place to make sure that it's not going, contracts aren't going to folks who aren't qualified to do the work because they happen to know somebody in government, whether they know somebody at the political level or at the bureaucratic level.
Does the RCMP need to come in?
Well, I think it's going to be up to the RCMP to decide whether there's grounds for a criminal investigation. I'm not going to tell the RCMP what to do, but I certainly hope that they are taking a look at it and making a determination as to whether or not they need to get involved.
Okay. And I don't know if Ms. Collins, if you want to talk to this as well. We saw that recording of Rob Oliphant, the parliamentary secretary, who basically is expressing views that are completely opposed to the Liberal government on what's happening in Gaza. He essentially said that, you know, he disagreed with the government stopping funding for UNRWA. He suggested, or he thinks, you know, he's not an expert on this, that what's going on there is probably genocide. Is the Liberal government on the wrong side of history when it comes to the stances it's taken on this conflict?
Well, New Democrats have called for a ceasefire, and we've called for the restoration of funding for UNRWA. I think Mr. Oliphant should have the courage to say publicly what he's clearly saying to some people privately.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your attention.